Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, where tiny coins tell big stories. Today, we're diving into the past to uncover the secrets of one of the most iconic pennies in American history, the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny. You've probably seen one of these before. They're small, copper-colored, and often forgotten in drawers or penny jars. But don't let their humble appearance fool you. Some of these coins are incredibly valuable, especially if they have the right features and the right condition. So grab your magnifying glass and let's explore what makes the 1953 wheat penny so special, and why some lucky collectors have found these little cents to be worth a fortune. Let's start with a bit of background. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and that alone made it groundbreaking. On the front, or obverse, you'll see Lincoln's profile, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials can actually be found on some earlier versions of the coin, which stirred a bit of controversy when they first appeared. Now, fast forward to 1953. America was riding the wave of post-World War II optimism. The economy was booming, rock and roll was just starting to take over, and the Cold War was heating up. The penny minted during this time might seem like just another coin, but it's actually a piece of this very unique era. What sets the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny apart? It depends on where it was minted. In 1953, these coins were produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia have no mint mark, while those from Denver carry a small D, and the San Francisco coins have an S just below the date. Now, here's the thing: millions of these coins were made, but most of them were used in everyday transactions. They passed through thousands of hands, fell into vending machines, were dropped on sidewalks, and stuffed in pockets. And through all that, most of them were scratched, dented, and worn down. That's just the natural life of a penny, but once in a while, a coin escapes all of that wear and tear. Maybe it was pulled from circulation right after minting. Maybe it was saved by a collector. Maybe it sat untouched in a bankroll for decades. And when that happens, when a coin survives in perfect or near-perfect condition, that's when the value skyrockets. So what should you be looking for if you come across a 1953 wheat penny? First, check the condition. Is it shiny with no scratches? Can you see the fine details in Lincoln's hair, or the lines in the wheat stalks on the back of the coin? If so, you might have a gem. Next, check the mint mark. While all 3 mints produced valuable coins that year, certain variations can make a huge difference. For example, errors like a double die, where the image appears slightly duplicated, can make your coin much more valuable. Off-center strikes, die cracks, and other minting mistakes are incredibly desirable to collectors. Even small differences in color matter. Over time, copper coins can change color based on how they were stored. A red-colored 1953 wheat penny, in mint state condition, is considered more valuable than a brown or darker-toned one. That original red hue shows the coin hasn't been exposed to the elements, and it's one of the signs of excellent preservation. But here's the real kicker. It's not just about the coin itself. It's about demand. Coin collectors, especially those who specialize in Lincoln cents, are constantly on the hunt for rare finds in pristine condition. And when demand meets rarity, the price can shoot through the roof. So now, after all that history, all that design detail, all that collector insight, you're probably wondering, just how much could a 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny actually be worth? Well, if you're holding one in average circulated condition, you might get a few cents to a few dollars, depending on its mint mark and appearance. But if you are lucky enough to own a 1953 wheat penny in uncirculated, mint state condition, especially one with a rich red luster or a rare minting error, your tiny 1-cent coin could fetch a jaw-dropping $61,000. Yes, you heard that right. $61,000. For a single penny. Incredible, isn't it? So next time you're going through a jar of old coins, don't just toss the pennies aside. One of them might just be a hidden treasure waiting to change your life. Today, we're unlocking the mystery of a coin that might be hiding right under your nose, the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny. It's small, coppery, and often overlooked, but trust me, this 1-cent coin could be worth far more than you'd ever expect. Let's step back in time for a moment. The year was 1950, America was settling into a new post-war era. The baby boom was in full swing, televisions were just becoming common in households, and the economy was buzzing with growth. In this era of transformation, the U.S. Mint continued to strike the humble penny, known officially as the Lincoln Wheat Cent, and among those coins, the 1950 edition quietly made its way into circulation. At first glance, this penny might not look all that different from others minted during the 1940s or early 50s. On the front, or obverse, you've got the iconic image of President Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of American leadership and resilience. His profile is strong and dignified, designed by Victor David Brenner. Turn the coin over and you'll see the words, 1 cent, framed by 2 wheat stalks, a classic design that gives the wheat penny its name. That reverse design was used from 1909 until 1958, making every wheat penny a piece of American history, but here's where it gets interesting. The 1950 wheat penny wasn't just made at one mint, it came from 3: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia bear no mint mark, while the ones from Denver have a small D beneath the date, and those from San Francisco are marked with an S. Each mint has its own story, and coins from each location can carry different values depending on how many were made and how well they were preserved. Millions of these pennies were struck that year. But as with all collectible coins, it's not about how many were made, it's about how many have survived in pristine condition. And that's where things get really exciting. Most pennies lived a rough life. They jingled around in pockets, slid across countertops, clinked in cash registers, and wore down with every transaction. The vast majority have scratches, faded details, and the copper has turned a dull brown over time. However, a tiny fraction of these coins escaped the chaos of circulation. Maybe someone tucked one away in a coin folder as a keepsake. Maybe it got lost in a drawer and was never touched again. And once in a while, one of these coins surfaces in almost perfect condition, shiny, crisp, and with every detail still sharp as the day it was struck. These are the coins collectors dream about, but what exactly should you look for if you have a 1950 wheat penny? First, condition is everything. The grading scale for coins goes from poor all the way up to mint state 70, which is basically perfection. A coin that's been preserved in mint state, especially if it still has its original red copper shine, is considered incredibly valuable. Second, pay attention to details. Is there a mint mark? If so, is there anything odd about it? Minting errors can seriously boost a coin's worth. Double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or even a repunched mint mark can transform a regular penny into a rare collector's item. Even the color of the coin matters. A bright red uncirculated penny from 1950 is much rarer than one that has turned brown over the decades. That red color signals minimal oxidation, meaning the coin was protected from air and moisture, a good sign for serious value. Collectors all over the world are drawn to coins like the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny because they represent more than money, they're snapshots of history, crafted in metal. They tell a story of the time they were minted, the economy, the politics, and even the artistry of American coinage. You may be surprised to learn how many people have discovered rare coins just by sorting through their change, or revisiting an old collection that's been stored away for decades. It happens more often than you'd think. And while most 1950 pennies are only worth a few cents or a couple of dollars at most, there are a select few, those rare, nearly flawless, or error-marked examples, that are worth much, much more. So if you've got a jar of old coins lying around, now is the time to take a second look. That little copper piece you almost tossed aside could be hiding a secret. Examine it carefully. Check the date. Look for that mint mark. See if it's unusually shiny or oddly stamped. Because you never know when you might be holding a true gem. And now, the part you've all been waiting for. Just how much could the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny be worth if you've got one in top-notch condition, or with a rare and desirable minting error? Well, one of these small, unassuming coins has sold to collectors for an astonishing $65,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1-cent coin. Worth $65,000. So, next time you're sifting through change or flipping through a coin album, keep an eye out for the 1950 wheat penny. It might just be your golden, or should I say copper, ticket. Today's video is going to blow your mind. We're diving into the story of a tiny coin with a massive history, the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny. It's just 1 cent, but it might be worth way more than that. In fact, if you're lucky, this old copper penny could end up being the most valuable coin you've ever owned. Now, let's rewind the clock to 1945. The world was at a turning point. World War II was finally coming to an end. The United States had just played a major role in one of the most defining events in modern history. Soldiers were returning home, the economy was shifting, and America was beginning a new chapter. During this time of rebuilding and hope, the U.S. Mint continued its operations, and among the coins produced that year was the now famous 1945 Lincoln wheat penny. To most people back then, this was just another coin. But today, collectors and history enthusiasts see it as a little round relic of wartime America. Let's talk about the design. On the front, or obverse side, you'll see the ever-familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. His image had been featured on the penny since 1909, making him the first real person to ever appear on an American coin. It's a design that speaks to strength, unity, and American values, and it was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Flip the coin over and you'll spot the wheat ears on either side of the words, 1 cent. This reverse design, often referred to as the wheat back, gives the coin its nickname, the Lincoln wheat penny. Between the two stalks of wheat, you'll see United States of America and e pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning out of many, one. Together, these design elements represent the spirit of the nation during a time of both hardship and triumph. Now, what makes the 1945 wheat penny especially interesting is that it was struck in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a small d under the date, and those from San Francisco have an S. If your coin doesn't have a mint mark, it was made in Philadelphia. Each version has its own mintage numbers and rarity factors, and that can play a huge role in determining the coin's overall value, but there's more. Most pennies in 1945 were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, but every so often, coins are struck with slight variations, whether due to metal inconsistencies, striking errors, or other minting mishaps. These mistakes can be worth a fortune to collectors. Double die errors, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or planchet flaws are just a few examples. These rare features are what can turn a common coin into a valuable collector's dream. Now let's talk about condition. A coin's grade is everything when it comes to its value. Coins are judged on a 70-point scale, where a 1 is barely recognizable, and a 70 is a flawless, mint-state coin. Most 1945 pennies were used heavily and show signs of wear, scratches, fading details, and dull color. But once in a while, someone finds a coin that looks like it just rolled off the minting press yesterday, shiny, bright red, and with all the fine details still razor sharp. These high-grade examples are incredibly rare, especially for a coin that's nearly 80 years old. Many collectors have spent years trying to find one in pristine condition. Some people have even discovered these coins in old coin albums, sock drawers, or family collections passed down through generations. And here's a little fun fact: during World War II, the U.S. Mint had actually experimented with steel pennies in 1943 to conserve copper for the war effort. But by 1945, they returned to using copper again, which makes the 1945 penny one of the last wartime coins made from this metal mix. That little historical footnote adds even more value and interest to this already fascinating coin. So, if you happen to come across a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, especially one with sharp details, brilliant color, and possibly even a rare error, don't brush it off. Take a closer look. You might just be holding a piece of American history with a surprising price tag. And speaking of price tags, here's what you've been waiting for. One of these 1945 wheat pennies, preserved in absolutely stunning condition and with the right rare characteristics, has been valued by collectors at an incredible $72,000. Yes, that's right, $72,000 for a coin that once sat in pockets, purses, and piggy banks as just 1 cent. Today, we're diving into the world of a tiny copper coin that may be lying unnoticed in your collection, your change jar, or even inside an old piggy bank. It's the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, and believe it or not, this little piece of copper could be your ticket to a small fortune. Don't let its humble appearance fool you. This coin has secrets, stories, and value that most people overlook. Let's set the scene. The year was 1954. The United States was booming. The post-war economy was thriving, televisions were becoming common in American homes, Elvis Presley was just beginning to make waves, and Americans were filled with hope and confidence for the future. Amid all this change and excitement, the U.S. Mint was busy doing what it does best, producing coins that would pass through millions of hands without anyone giving them a second thought. And yet, decades later, one of those very coins, the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, has become one of the most fascinating pieces for collectors across the world. Let's start with the design. The obverse side features the iconic image of President Abraham Lincoln, whose face first appeared on the U.S. penny in 1909, celebrating his 100th birthday. His calm expression, the word "Liberty" beside him, and the date, 1954, stamped proudly to the right, these elements are instantly recognizable. Under the date, you might spot a small mint mark, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. If there's no mark, it means your coin was minted in Philadelphia. Flip it over, and you'll find 2 wheat stalks curving inward, one on each side. This is where the coin gets its popular nickname, the wheat penny. In between the stalks, you'll see the words, 1 cent and United States of America, along with the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, stood strong for half a century before it was eventually replaced, but not before leaving behind a rich legacy. So, what makes the 1954 penny so special? After all, millions were made. In fact, over 71 million were struck in Philadelphia, over 251 million in Denver, and more than 96 million in San Francisco. That's a lot of pennies, but the real excitement comes when you look beyond the numbers. The value of a 1954 penny depends heavily on 3 key factors: its mint mark, its condition, and whether it contains any minting errors. Let's talk condition. A coin in circulated condition, meaning it has wear and tear from everyday use, might only fetch a few cents to a couple of dollars. But a coin that has been preserved perfectly, one that looks like it was minted yesterday, can be worth much more. These uncirculated coins, with sharp details and glossy red copper luster, are highly sought after by collectors. The rarest of these are graded as mint state, and the higher the grade, the higher the price. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Some 1954 wheat pennies have rare errors or variations that make them especially valuable. There are coins with double die errors, where the design appears slightly doubled, usually on the lettering or the date. Others have repunched mint marks, where a letter was stamped more than once in a slightly different location. And sometimes, coins are struck slightly off-center, missing details or landing on imperfect planchets. All of these unique features can skyrocket a penny's value. Imagine finding a 1954 penny in your drawer that has been quietly sitting there for decades, and then realizing it's an error coin in pristine condition. That's not just a collector's dream, it's a reality for a lucky few. But even without errors, the appeal of this coin is strong. The 1954 wheat penny represents the end of an era. Just 5 years later, the wheat reverse design would be replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. That change marked a shift in U.S. coinage and the final chapter for one of America's most loved designs. Holding a 1954 penny is like holding the history of an entire generation in the palm of your hand. So, before you toss your spare change into a machine or forget about those old coins in your attic, take a moment to look a little closer. A tiny copper penny from 1954, with a bit of shine and a touch of luck, could be more than just a reminder of the past. In fact, one extremely well-preserved example of the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, graded at the highest mint state level and showcasing exceptional brilliance, was valued at an astonishing $62,500. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent, turned into $62,500. Today, we're taking a journey back to the year 1944 to uncover the secrets and surprises hidden in the United States of America 1 cent Lincoln wheat penny. Now, don't let its small size or copper color fool you. This coin is no ordinary piece of change. It holds history, wartime innovation, and in some cases, serious value. So make sure you watch until the end, because what you learn today might just change how you see the pennies in your pocket forever. Let's rewind the clock. It's 1944. The world is in the thick of World War II. America is fully involved, soldiers are overseas, factories back home are producing war supplies, and everything is being rationed to support the effort. Even the coins in circulation were affected. In fact, just 1 year before, 1943, the U.S. Mint had changed the penny from copper to steel coated in zinc, because copper was needed for ammunition and military equipment. But in 1944, that changed again. Due to public complaints about the steel pennies rusting and being mistaken for dimes, the mint returned to copper. However, instead of using fresh metal, they used recycled shell casings from the war, melted down and turned into pennies. Yes, that's right. The 1944 wheat penny may have been made from actual battlefield materials. That alone makes this coin a powerful symbol of American history. Let's talk about its design. On the front side, or obverse, you'll find the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces right, with the word Liberty behind him and the year 1944 to the right. Depending on where your coin was made, you might also see a small mint mark under the date, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. If there's no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll see 2 wheat stalks curved along the left and right edges. That's where the term wheat penny comes from. Between them are the bold words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Now, here's the exciting part: what makes this coin truly special and what could make it incredibly valuable. More than 1.5 billion 1944 wheat pennies were produced across all 3 mints, so it's not exactly rare in quantity. But condition, errors, and composition can turn this common coin into a collector's dream. Let's begin with condition. A heavily worn 1944 penny is probably only worth a few cents. But if your coin was carefully preserved, never circulated, clean, sharp, with its copper color still vibrant, then its value goes up significantly. Collectors pay high premiums for coins in mint state condition, especially those graded 65 or higher on the Sheldon scale. Next come the errors and rarities. And here's where things get really exciting: there are some 1944 wheat pennies that were mistakenly struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These rare error coins are magnetic, and if you ever find one, you might be holding a true treasure. Even beyond that, other known errors include double die obverse coins, where the date or lettering appears slightly double due to a mistake during the minting process. There are also repunched mint marks and off-center strikes, small flaws that can turn an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Collectors around the world hunt for these variations, often paying thousands of dollars to add them to their collection. Even without errors, a perfectly preserved 1944 wheat penny is a valuable time capsule from a nation at war. A coin that carries the spirit of sacrifice, resilience, and American history in the palm of your hand. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. A pristine example of the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, in brilliant uncirculated condition and certified at the highest possible grade, once sold to a collector for a jaw-dropping total of $74,500. Yes. 1 cent, turned into $74,500. So next time you see a wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Turn it over, check the date, look for mint marks, examine the condition. You never know when a simple coin from your change jar might actually be a life-changing discovery. If you enjoyed this story of hidden value, wartime history, and numismatic mystery, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next incredible coin story. Because who knows? The next valuable penny might already be in your hands. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.